You're not lazy. You're not stupid. You're not even unmotivated. You wake up with ideas. You make plans. You tell yourself this time is different. You feel it, that real, burning feeling that this is finally your moment. And then something happens. Or more accurately, nothing happens. You stall. You second guess. You make one decision that quietly undoes everything. And 2 months later, you're watching someone else. Someone you know isn't more talented than you. Someone you've literally helped before. Living the life you said you wanted. And the worst part? You can't explain it. This isn't about motivation. This isn't about discipline. This isn't about needing to work harder. This is about your psychology. Specifically, the hidden programming that was installed in you during childhood that has been running your decision-making ever since. Silently, automatically, without your permission. Today, we're going to name it, break it down, and by the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why you keep losing, and more importantly, what to actually do about it.
Here's a question nobody asks. When you were growing up, what happened when you tried something and it didn't work? Not a big failure. Small ones. You tried to explain something and got laughed at. You showed someone your work and they shrugged. You expressed excitement about something and the room stayed flat. What did that teach you? For most people who grew up in emotionally neglectful homes, it taught them this. Trying leads to disappointment. So the safest move is to not fully try. Psychologists call this learned helplessness. It's what happens when a person experiences repeated situations where their effort produces no positive result. Over time, the brain stops connecting effort to outcome. It learns trying doesn't change anything. So why try at full capacity? This is why you start strong and fade. This is why you self-sabotage just before the finish line. This is why you make decisions that seem almost deliberately bad. Because on a subconscious level, you've already decided the outcome. You're just making the failure feel less like rejection and more like a choice. You're not failing because you're incapable. You're failing because your brain learned, a long time ago, that success wasn't something that happened to people like you.
There are two ways to make a decision. You make it moving towards something you want, or you make it moving away from something you're afraid of. Both can look identical from outside. Both can feel like motivation, but they produce completely different results. People who consistently win in life make most of their decisions from direction. They know what they want, they move toward it, and they absorb setbacks as information rather than proof they were wrong to try. People who consistently stall make most of their decisions from fear. They're not building something, they're escaping something. They take the job not because it's aligned, but because it's safe. They end the relationship not because they're ready, but because they're scared of being left first. They quit the project not because it's wrong, but because getting close to success triggers a fear response. Fear-based decisions feel urgent and logical in the moment. They feel like clarity, but they consistently move you sideways, not forward. Here's how to tell the difference. Ask yourself, am I doing this because I want it, or am I doing this because I'm afraid of what happens if I don't? If your honest answer is the second one, that's your programming talking, not your potential.
This one will feel uncomfortable. Good. Every person has an unconscious ceiling on how much success, happiness, and love they believe they're allowed to have. Psychologist Gay Hendricks calls this the upper limit problem. The moment you start getting close to your personal ceiling, something goes wrong. You get sick. You pick a fight with someone you love. You make a financial decision that sets you back. You say something that damages a key relationship. It looks like bad luck. It feels like the universe is punishing you.
But what's actually happening is your subconscious is pulling you back to the level it believes you deserve. And that level was set in childhood. If you grew up watching the people around you struggle, if success was seen as arrogance or luck or something that happened to other people, your brain coded that level as normal, as safe, as where you belong. So every time you exceed it, an alarm fires. Get back down. This isn't for you. You're getting too big. Something bad is about to happen. And then you make the decision that brings you back down. You don't have a talent problem. You have a ceiling problem. And the ceiling was built without your knowledge, by the environment you grew up in.
You are busy. Genuinely, exhaustingly busy. You're always working on something, always researching, planning, preparing, learning. You consume content about the thing. You make notes. You talk about it. You feel like you're in it. But the thing never actually launches. The goal never actually moves. This is one of the most painful patterns in psychology, productive procrastination. The feeling of working without the reality of progress. The brain gets a dopamine hit from preparation that closely mimics the dopamine hit of actual achievement. So you can spend months, even years, feeling like you're building, while actually staying perfectly still. For people who grew up in uncertain environments, preparation became a control mechanism. If you're still planning, you can't fail yet. The plan is perfect. The execution is where things go wrong. So you stay in the plan. The moment you have to launch, to publish, to send, to say yes, that's the moment of real exposure, real risk, real possibility of the rejection your nervous system has been trained to avoid. So you keep preparing. And the people around you, the ones you think are luckier or more talented, they just started. They launched the imperfect version. They took the hit, and they kept going. Progress beats preparation every single time.
Be honest with yourself for a second. How many times have you had an idea, a real, solid, good idea, and waited for someone to tell you it was good before you moved on it? How many times have you explained a plan to someone, gotten an uncertain response, and quietly shelved it, even though you still believed in it? How many times have you looked at someone else doing exactly what you wanted to do and thought, why didn't I do that? This is the validation trap, and it's one of the primary reasons talented, passionate people stay stuck. When we don't develop internal confidence as children, when our ideas and feelings were consistently met with indifference or criticism, we learn to outsource our judgment. We need someone else to confirm that what we think is worth thinking, that what we want is worth wanting. The problem is that nobody who is ahead of you will fully validate your plan to catch up to them. That's not how humans work. The people around you are operating from their own ceilings, their own fears, their own limitations. If you wait for the room to believe in you before you move, you will wait forever. The people winning aren't more validated than you. They just stopped asking for permission. Something goes wrong. A decision backfires. A plan falls apart. A risk doesn't pay off. What happens next inside your head? For most high-functioning people who grew up in emotionally neglectful homes, what happens next is brutal. The internal voice doesn't say, okay, what did I learn? It says, I knew it. I always do this. I'm not built for this. Other people can handle this. I can't. This is called shame-based processing. Instead of treating failure as data, something to analyze, adjust, and move forward from, you treat it as evidence of who you are. And here's why this destroys your growth. Guilt says, I did something wrong, and it motivates correction. Shame says, I am something wrong, and it motivates retreat. Every time you fail and retreat into shame rather than analysis, you lose the only thing that failure was ever supposed to give you, the information. Successful people fail constantly. The difference isn't that they fail less, it's that they process it faster. They extract the lesson, they adjust, they move.
You're not losing because you make more mistakes than other people. You're losing because you're paying the emotional cost of every mistake without collecting the lesson. You're getting all the pain and none of the growth.
This is the deepest one, and the one that most people never reach. You have changed. Your skills have grown. Your knowledge has expanded. Your awareness of what you want and what you're capable of has shifted enormously. But your identity hasn't caught up. Deep in your subconscious, in the psychological bedrock that was laid in childhood, there is still a version of you that is the kid who didn't quite fit, who was overlooked, who tried and got nothing back, who learned to be careful, to stay small, to not want too much. And that version of you has a vote on every major decision you make. When you get close to something real, something that would genuinely change your life, that old identity fires. This isn't who we are. We don't get things like this. Something will go wrong. Pull back. Psychologists call this identity level conflict. Your behavior can't consistently exceed your identity. You can push past it short term through discipline and willpower, but eventually your actions will drift back toward who you believe you are at the core. This is why you can work incredibly hard for 3 months and then completely collapse. The behavior was ahead of the identity, and the identity pulled it back. Real, lasting change doesn't start with habits. It starts with updating the story you tell yourself about who you are, about what you deserve, about what is actually possible for someone like you. And the first step is recognizing the person you were conditioned to be is not the person you actually are. 7 reasons. 7 patterns. Every single one invisible from the outside. Because from the outside, you look fine. You look capable. You look like someone who should be winning. And you are someone who should be winning. The problem was never your talent. It was never your passion. It was never your work ethic. It was the programming, the invisible code that was written into you before you were old enough to question it, by environments that weren't designed to help you succeed, just to survive. But you're not in survival mode anymore. And the first step out of this isn't a new morning routine. It isn't a new productivity system. It isn't working harder. It's this. Start noticing the moments where you pull back, where you stall, where you sabotage. Don't judge them. Just notice them. Ask, what am I afraid of right now? What ceiling am I bumping against? Then take one small action anyway. Not a big dramatic one, a tiny one. Send the message, post the thing, make the call. Because every time you act past the fear, you chip away at the old identity. You write new evidence. You tell your nervous system a different story. You are not someone who almost makes it. You are someone who was trained to believe that. There is a difference. And now you know the difference, which means for the first time, you actually have a choice.